Welcome to Build with Naz. I'm Naz, the founder of Rebel and author of the Rebel open core repo, which includes a bunch of crates like Rebel 2e. And in today's video, we're not going to do the normal live coding video in Rust that I've been doing, but it's going to be a little bit different. I recently switched from Pop! OS 22 to Ubuntu 24. I was really excited about Cosmic, and I still am, but unfortunately it's taking a lot longer to get to even the alpha. So, and I have a System 76 machine, and I was having issues with Pop! OS 22 on it, stability problems, and so I decided to give Ubuntu 24 a try without too many expectations, and I was completely blown away by the polish and fit and finish. There's still a lot of rough edges because Ubuntu 24 no longer uses X11. It now uses Wayland, which is something I've been waiting for a very long time. I remember running into some strange X11 bugs when I used to work at Google many years ago. Like really strange stuff, because this code is so old and it's barely maintained. I mean, I don't think it's even maintained. I had to get a book from Amazon that's out of print on X11 to try and debug the thing. So yeah, I'm glad Ubuntu 24 uses Wayland. So in this particular video, I'm going to show you my setup, and also some. I've been curating these scripts over the last couple of years, so I decided to public them. So it makes it very easy to take a stock, like a brand new install of Ubuntu 24, and customize it relatively easily to have a reasonable setup for developers. So I call it setup for developer productivity. And the repo is, I put in the Rust Scratch repo. It's my mono repo where I put all the projects for the Build with Naz series. And this one is named Ubuntu 24, and there's a whole bunch of scripts. And essentially, once you install Ubuntu 24 from, you have to go to the Ubuntu website, get an ISO file, burn it onto a USB drive. You can use something called Popsicle, made by System 76, to create a bootable USB drive. Then you boot off of that, live boot, and then you can just play with it, make sure it works on your system, and then go ahead and install it. So once that installation is finished, it'll ask you to reboot. The Ubuntu 24 installer is now written in Flutter, so it looks really nice. And then, so once you reboot and you've logged into your Ubuntu instance, you have a host name and a username. Then at that point, you can run these scripts. So these are quite opinionated because they reflect my setup. And essentially, let me walk you through this. So essentially, this is the kind of stuff that I have. So I use Fish as my default login shell. Tried to use new shell, but I never got used to using new shell as my default. I use new shell for CI/CD, and also for all the Rebel open core projects to run any kind of like task that can be scripted, instead of using like just files. New is quite good for that. Once Fish gets rewritten in Rust, I might actually revisit that and just redo all the new shell scripts as Fish scripts, but that who knows when that'll be. So in addition to Fish, I also have Bash. That's critical if you have Fish, because Bash allows you to run Bash scripts, which is important. Unsurprisingly, I have Rust, so I use rustup. I have brew. So basically, my order of preference roughly goes, if something is like exa is available on crates.io, I get that instead of the exa that's on brew. So for stuff I can't get on crates.io, I'll get on brew. For stuff I can't get on brew, I'll generally do apt. And then Flatpak, I use Flatpak and Flathub. So there's instructions on how to install all of this. I use Docker and Docker Compose, so that's there too. OBS Studio for screen recording, VLC, and actually MPV for media playback. These are all very nice. Chrome for web browsing, and I actually also have Firefox, which I have instructions on how to get that, or in these scripts, it'll get it from Flatpak. And then lots of GNOME extensions, which I'll walk you through in this video, and a whole bunch of font customizations. I'm a big fontist, as you can see from these videos. Like every single font is basically customized, and so I'll walk you through how that works. You don't have to go completely as nuts that I do with like remapping system fonts like Arial and sans serif to Iosevka or something like that. That's a bit extreme, but you can stop short of that. And I can show you. I'll show you in this video how to take different steps. Like there's something called gnome-tweaks, which we can use to customize fonts very easily, and then where gnome-tweaks stops, we can actually go into fontconfig and actually customize things that way. So that's essentially the overview. And also these scripts can be run directly. You just have to install curl, and then basically there's a bunch of these scripts. They are in here in this repo. And so the one that like the first one that needs to be installed is the bootstrap bash script. And what this does is that it'll add you to your sudoers file, so you don't have to keep typing your password. It'll do, if you have a laptop, it'll basically make it so that when the lid is closed and your external power supply is connected, it won't go to sleep. So you can use it to drive an external monitor. So I have like two computers. One is a System76 desktop, and then another one is a ThinkPad laptop. The ThinkPad laptop has an NVIDIA graphics card, and the System76 one has an AMD graphics card. So I've been running Ubuntu 24 on there pretty reliably for a week now, and I've had no issues like putting it to sleep, waking it back up, connecting it to external monitors, unplugging, replugging. These are issues that Pop! OS 22 was struggling with for some reason, and especially suspend. Even on System76 desktop, it wasn't working properly. So those issues have just disappeared. I was also getting a lot of lockups. I couldn't even log in, so my lock screen would just hang up with Pop! OS 22. Then I have to Control Alt F4, log into one of the TTY4 or whatever, and then restart GDM and all kinds of stuff. It was awful. So all those problems have just gone away. And even on older hardware, this runs beautifully. So Wayland looks absolutely stunning. It's super smooth. You can do fractional scaling. Font rendering is absolutely gorgeous. Everything just looks better. Looks like I have new monitors, even though the monitors are the same and the computers are the same. Looks like I just got new hardware. So absolutely incredible. Come back to this bootstraps thing. So yeah, it basically then installs this fish, and it goes and gets bass, and it sets up Flatpak, and then it changes the default shell to fish, and then you have to log out, log back in. I think for Flatpak, they say you have to restart your machine, so whatever. If you feel adventurous, you can restart it right after this, or just at the very least, you have to log out. So that's the bootstrap. So that's really just the only script that has to be run first. Once that's done, these other scripts you can run them in any order. So I essentially have a bunch of them, like install fish, which basically covers the bulk of the applications that need to be installed. Docker is separate, the fonts are separate, and then I have these other little scripts that I have in there. And I'll walk through some of them, actually all of them, as I give you a demo of the system. So let me see. That is, so let's show you what the system looks like. So essentially one of the biggest changes between Pop! OS and Ubuntu 24 is Wayland. This is using Wayland. So there's a couple of downsides to Wayland. One of them is hotkeys. For Wayland architecture and security reasons, it's a little bit different than it used to be. So for a lot of hotkey mapping, so for example, if I wanted to trigger OBS to start recording and stop recording, I can't do that anymore, because unless the OBS process has focus, the Wayland will not give keyboard shortcuts to that particular process. So that makes for a pretty tricky setup for some applications. So let me just walk you through what I can see first. So there's no tiling window manager, but I do have a bunch of extensions which can do this. There's something called tactile and tiling shell, and they do a pretty decent job. The biggest difference that's between, let's say, Pop! OS with auto tile and these plugins or extensions is that these extensions don't have stacking mode. So in Pop! OS, you could just stack. Basically, you can take any window and you can think of it as like you can just create tabs, and then you can spawn other windows, and then they'll basically just take up the same space as the first window, but it will appear as another tab. So that feature is just not there. So if I wanted to, let's say in Pop! OS, I could just take this window with this image and VS Code, and I could just stack them, but I can't. So what I do here is I just put one on top of the other. It's like, you know, poor man stacking. So you just have to like remember that they're there. It's not the greatest thing. That's one thing I do miss with the tiling window manager, but I mean it's not unusable. It's actually over time I think I'll get used to it. The Windows key, as you can see, launches the dock and it shows all the workspaces. Sorry, the super key, which is really nice. So that's become my application launcher. But I also have ulauncher because I miss the pop shells Windows slash. So here you can just, like, for example, say you want to launch tilix or Firefox or whatever, and then it works like you think it should. Now, in order to trigger ulauncher, it's not, unfortunately, trivial. What you have to do is you have to go to this keyboard settings in the settings app, and you have to map something called ulauncher toggle. That's actually a it's just an application, so like it's a binary. We can say ulauncher toggle, I think. Yeah. So it's just a binary, and so the one thing you have to do with Wayland is if you wanted to run ulauncher toggle, you have to wrap it with sh-c and you have to put it in quotes. So basically, that's how all these keyboard shortcuts end up doing something to launch an application. So that's kind of like one of the downsides with this, you know, I guess issues with Wayland, I would say, is that it's not as easy as it used to be. Like binding keyboard shortcuts to applications is a little bit tricky. You just have to go through this custom shortcuts thing in the system settings. And it looks like my system settings has also crashed. So what the heck? Let's see. Oh, that's weird. Oh, there we go. Some modal popped up behind it. Okay, let's do this again. So here we have, there we go. So it's under custom shortcuts. So for example, guake, I had to get, I used to use tilix in quake mode so that I could see a terminal pop down from the top of the screen whenever I hit super Q. That unfortunately can't be done. So I ended up getting this application called guake, G-U-A-K-E, which essentially brings that back. But I use tilix a lot. This is tilix, and tilix is nice. It has you can do all kinds of interesting, like you can tile the windows. It's basically like tmux but fancy. You can still use tmux. So what I end up doing is for my terminals, I still use tilix, but I end up also installing guake. And inside of guake, I use tmux. So I have this file. So I end up, when I reboot my machine, I just restore my tmux session. And what I do is I basically run this script which runs certain programs in different panes and sessions. And it's just stuff like, I'll show you. So what it does is that, so it creates, I have this thing, it just changes my wallpaper dynamically. It's a script that I wrote. It just runs it over and over again in Fish. Then it basically constantly builds the Rebel open core repo and some other repos that I have, so that when I go to run them in Rust, it's pretty fast. And I have just another pane open. So this is my sort of quake mode. So guake, G-U-A-K-E, not tilix. So tilix can't do quake mode because of Wayland restrictions. So, but there's my workaround. So, so if you use tilix and if you like quake mode, then guake is not bad. One other thing that I wanted to show is this cool window switcher, like workspace switcher. This is really nice. Basically shows like an overview of all the windows, and you can see, like, I have 1, 2, 3, all these dots are the different workspaces, and this pill thing is like which workspace I'm on. So it makes it really nice. You can also like bring up the dock, and if you scroll up and down, it actually switches workspaces, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, this is nice. And I have keyboard shortcuts. I use something called Ultimate Hacking Keyboard, and I have all my key bindings redone so that they work nicely with GNOME. This is just vitals. This is a nice GNOME extension. This is just the weather one. And then this is like an emoji picker, which is nice. And the rest of them, this is a clipboard history, which is nice. All GNOME extensions, that's quake. And this is kind of nice. It looks like an Android where you can take a screenshot. You can go to your settings. You can actually, just instead of having to go into settings, you can kind of like quick settings in Android. It's kind of like that. It's pretty handy. Overall, the performance has been super smooth with Ubuntu 24. It's really nice. Especially the graphics and the animation is just. I don't even have a high refresh monitor, but even with my 60 Hertz refresh, it looks really nice. So, so that's, let's see, ulauncher is pretty decent. It kind of works like you would expect. It doesn't have too many customization options. I mean, I almost don't need it, because if you hit the super key, you can actually use this as a launcher. So I might actually phase out ulauncher over time. And then let's see, what else do we have? Okay, so that's kind of a walk through the UI. Some of the font customizations I can show you. This is gnome-tweaks. Let's see. You can change like all kinds of things, like the interface font, the document text font. So for example, if you have VS Code and you want to change the fonts in these, what do you call these things? The sidebars. That just means that you have to come in here and change interface text. Monospace text, whatever you put in here is whatever the font will be for all terminals. So it's kind of nice. You can also mess with scaling factor, which is nice. So outside of display scaling, which this currently supports fractional scaling, which is really nice. So if you have, and you can also do different scaling for different monitors. I currently have 3 monitors, and I mean, they're all the same size, so the scaling is the same on all of them. But if you had different DPI monitors, then you can actually do a different scaling on each monitor. These gnome-tweak, the gnome-tweak changes to font scaling are global. That's not per monitor. So you can make the font size bigger without making the spaces between all the UI elements larger. So it's kind of like an Android. And then let's see, there's a lot of things you can do with the let's see, Ubuntu desktop. So actually, there is even more than what's shown in these default ones. There's Just Perfection, which is another really fancy GNOME extension, which you can use to just tweak the hell out of everything. So basically, like, I like it so that when I launch an application, it just goes maximized. So that's set in here. You can also change all kinds of things that you won't be able to find in gnome-tweaks or in the settings app. So it's kind of like the settings app is the most basic. The gnome-tweaks is a little bit more than that, and just perfection is just like completely nuts. The level of customization that you can do. And once you've made these customizations, thanks to dconf, you can very quickly just you can see them here visually in the dconf editor, and when you're ready, you can actually use, I think, G settings. It's to export all the key value pairs and restore them. So you can export them to a file and import them from a file. So I have scripts which do that, and so it's very easy to customize it, just the shell the way I want, GNOME shell, and then persist those settings and then reapply them to any machines that I have. So that is a whirlwind tour through the sort of the UI elements. So one thing I wanted to show. So this is what Chrome looks like. So let's get into the bit of a tricky issues that you're going to run into. So let's see. So one thing is I use super+q for quake mode. So guake, and so if you don't want that. If you want that, you're going to have to remap the default settings, and you have to use dconf for that. So by default, super+q basically focuses the dock and allows you to press a number to launch a specific application, which I didn't want. So I use flameshot for taking screenshots. This thing is great because you can annotate. Unfortunately, it's not so easy to get this working in Wayland. It's not the worst, but it doesn't work fully. There's some issues with it, and so one thing I had to do is to get that to work. Let's see. I had to. Yeah. This one, flameshot capture. So basically, I had to create a keybinding and basically launch flameshot space GUI. And the first time it launches, it'll ask you for permission to grab the screen. So it's kind of nice. Wayland is not like X11. It's got a lot of security features. It's great. So yeah, but there's also a lot of rough edges, like tilix and flameshot don't really work quite right. So, but you know. It's I guess it'll get better over time because Wayland is relative. I mean, Wayland support is now. Other applications are going to have to support it now. So let's see, what else do we have? Oh yeah, this is for if you use ulauncher. There's certain things you have to do to basically get ulauncher toggle to work. You have to install WM control, which is a really cool app. But yeah. So this is like stuff that you have to do. Let's see. Oh, and this is a big one. So if you have fractional scaling in Chrome, I had it on a machine with an NVIDIA card, another machine with an AMD card. And on one of them, the AMD one, Chrome was totally blurry. So that was disturbing. And so there's a setting in Chrome called preferred ozone platforms. So if you go to Chrome flags and you go to ozone, I think the default is set to X11, so out of the box. And so what I did was I changed it to auto. And well, this is GNOME beta, but in my stable Chrome, sorry, not GNOME, Chrome beta. So in my stable Chrome, it's set differently. So this works out of the box with the beta of Chrome beta. So I have Chrome beta, and I have regular Chrome. And regular Chrome, I had to explicitly change this to auto because it was set to X11 and everything looked blurry with fractional scaling. So that was one fix that has to be done if you're experiencing that. Another big one was AppImages. So I use this thing. It's Ultimate Hacking Keyboard is it's a really nice programmer's keyboard, and I've customized the hell out of it, and it needs an application called Agent to customize the key maps. So we have Agent. That's roughly what that looks like. There's Agent, and so essentially this is deployed or released as a AppImage. This AppImage is used libfuse. Libfuse is this thing. Libfuse is file system and user space. So it's like a virtual file system. So essentially the problem is that Ubuntu 24 uses libfuse 3. AppImages use libfuse 2. libfuse 2 is really old and is currently like in maintenance mode. All the new stuff is happening in libfuse 3, which is why libfuse 2 is not included by default. So I had some issues. So one thing you could do is just install libfuse 2 and deal with the security vulnerabilities that come along with that. Or I have a different approach where I'll show you. I made a script to basically extract an AppImage and run it without libfuse. There's I have a script that I can show how to do that. So here is that script. Yeah. So what this does is that it gets this, and this can be applicable to any AppImage. It just so happens this is using the Ultimate Hacking Keyboard. Like this is when you go to their when you go to download, it's this thing, AppImage. It's a link to their GitHub repo where they publish their releases. And so what this does is that it constructs the file name and the file and the download URL based on the latest release tag. So I use this technique in other places as well when I download fonts, and I'll show the font scripts at the end of the video. So what this does is it basically cleverly figures out what's the latest release. Based on the latest release, it'll generate a file name for this AppImage, and it will also generate where to download it from. Then it uses wget to download it, extracts it, and then it dumps it in the bin directory. And then it also generates a desktop entry for this UHK. So that's how I can see UHK agent in my ulauncher, or when I hit the super key in GNOME launcher. So that's a lot of work, but a lot of this is totally reusable. So might be worth looking at if you have a lot of AppImages that you can't live without. So, and this prevented me from having to install libfuse 2. So just in case you're wondering why go through all this work. So that was the whole libfuse 2, libfuse 3. So libfuse 3 comes out of the box with GNOME, with Ubuntu 2024, and libfuse 2 is what AppImages use. So hopefully those will synchronize at some point. And then let's see. Oh yeah, OBS Studio, which is what I use for recording, has some issues. Like there's a lot of rough edges with Wayland support right now in a lot of these applications, and the ones that support it work great, and the ones that don't support it, unfortunately, there's a lot of rough edges. OBS Studio is one of them. So a lot of the dialog boxes don't look right. The thing crashes quite a bit. So I'm hoping that this recording will go without any crashes. But yeah, OBS Studio has a lot of rough edges, unfortunately, for now. So let's see, I think that covers that. Okay, and then I think we talked about, yeah, we went over guake and tilix. Let's see, okay, so let me just show you this script real quick. This is, we have bootstrap bash. I showed that earlier. That just kind of sets everything up. Then I showed how to take an AppImage and basically use it without having to deal with libfuse 2. this is the bulk of the program, so you can actually, by the way, you can just curl these scripts and execute them. So you don't need to clone this repo or anything. So if you look at install, this just goes through, there's a bunch of utility functions just to make it easy to understand what's going on. But what it does is that it remaps the caps lock key so that it's the control key. That's a nice little hack because control and alt are on two different sides. So what I do is my enter key is mapped to alt, and my caps lock key is mapped to control, and that just makes it easy. I use a lot of control and alt something, control alt something, control something. These are all my shortcuts, and it just makes it very easy. It's super ergonomic, nothing fancy. So that's what this does. Then there's a whole bunch of software that gets installed from apt, like ffmpeg, tilix, guake, the font manager, synaptic package manager, simple screen recorder, all kinds of stuff. Ranger, timeshift, which is a really cool thing for backups. I recommend using it for system backups. There's also a cool retro term, which is just fun. This thing, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So basically, let's see, btop, htop. Okay, there you go. So that's a cool retro term. It's a fun little terminal application. Then let's see, it gets, oh, this is the speed test command line interface, which is nice, from Ookla. And then it gets ulauncher. So there you go. That's basically what's happening with the apt stuff. So then there's a bunch of stuff that gets installed from snap. So that's basically snapd, which is just the this is already comes out of the box on Ubuntu. There's no need to do this, but VLC and Snippet Pixie. Snippet Pixie is a really nice program that you can use to basically take snippets, and when you invoke a keyboard shortcut, it basically pops up a little thing and shows you what those snippets are. I got it from this Mac program called Alfred, I think. And there's another one on Linux called Albert. And then it just makes it easy, just frequent, like what is your zip code or address or some things you end up typing over and over again. You can just put that in your Snippet Pixie. Let's see what else we got. Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff from Flatpak. Things like Draw.io, it's a drawing tool. Then there's like ASCII Draw, which is an ASCII drawing tool. There's the OBS Studio, MPV, Firefox, and GNOME Weather. So GNOME Weather is nice because you'll get this thing in your little whatever this is called, title bar or menu bar or whatever it is on the very top. So that's nice. And then let's see, yeah, that pretty much covers all the Flatpak stuff. I think there was one strange thing about color pickers. So because of the issues, because of Wayland, when you launch a color picker, it won't really let you access any other apps. So I think they have to make a portal for it or something. I'm not really sure. But right now, what you have to do is take a screenshot with flameshot, put that somewhere, and then use some sort of drawing tool where you can take that bitmap and then use a color picker in that drawing tool to pick the color picker out of the bitmap. So it's really inconvenient. Basically, color pickers don't really work. Or I haven't found one. If you find one, let me know in the Discord. For there's a link to the Discord in the description of this video. I couldn't find one. And yeah, so those are all the ones for Flatpak. And then we have just installing Chrome, GNOME Chrome integration. So this is so you can install GNOME extensions from Chrome. There's installing Brew and a whole host of other things like auto jump and node and GH, which is the GitHub command line interface. Then GitHub LFS. I have some repos that use Git LFS, so that's in there. the SSH server setup. So this is just installing OpenSSH and just making it so that it doesn't time out. I have a lot of computers I want to be SSH'd into and not have a timeout, so these settings make it easy for that to happen. And then Sublime Text and Merge, and finally rustup. Rustup just installs a whole bunch of things from apt that are needed to compile all these crates, and then it goes and gets a bunch of different crates and let's see, like Alacrity, and we get the .desktop file for Alacrity, so you can launch it from the system launcher or the GNOME launcher or whatever, ulauncher. Although you don't have to do this, you can just get Alacrity from other sources, and this is probably unnecessary. One other application that, or cargo add-on I like, is called Cargo Update, and when you use cargo install and then you install a crate, it's pretty much stuck at that version until you run cargo install and that crate again. There's something called Cargo Update, which when you install Cargo Update and then you write cargo install update -a, it will go and update all the binaries on your system to the latest version, which is something that I recommend. That way, if there's any new releases, you're not missing out on them. So yeah, important for security fixes and stuff like that. So yeah, and then this one sets up Rust Analyzer for Helix, and that's pretty much it. So that takes care of the this script, and then the rest of it is just, you know, you can use this other script to install Docker, and then finally there is this install fonts fish script, which is really handy. I use some really cool fonts, like I use, let's see, where is it? So search font, it's like so like, let's see what is in here. Like there's Victor Mono, Julia Mono, Iosevka. So Victor Mono, this one, it's really nice. Julia Mono. And these fonts get updated all the time, especially Iosevka, and it's a beautiful font. And so what I do is that I end up just, I have these, they're fish functions, but essentially fish scripts that end up going to the release page for this particular projects, and it figures out, like, let me show you. Like it figures out, for example, very similar to what was happening with the AppImage script. It figures out, like, based on the repo, what's the latest release. It basically let's see, it curls this URL, and it basically uses JQ to parse out like what tag this is. So essentially you go to this, and it's a GitHub API. So you basically connect to api.github.com, and you give it the repo and the organization, and then ask for the latest release, and it'll give you a JSON blob, and then you just parse the JSON blob and get the tag name out of it. So then using that tag name, I kind of reverse engineer the release URL and the release file name, and then download it. And in order to quote unquote install it, I move it into this one, local share fonts folder. So this is where all these fonts end up getting stored. So there's Victor Mono or something in there. There you go. So that's how that happens. And then it, I think at the end it goes fccache -f-v, which just reloads your font cache. So, and it uses trash, which is really nice, instead of rm. Trash is like basically like, instead of rming, which just goes away when you trash something, you can remove it from your trash, your recycle bin. And then let's see, then there's Julia Mono, same kind of thing. There's Iosevka, same kind of thing. And then there's a lot of there's also Iosevka nerd font, which this isn't really necessary because the Iosevka normal font has all the glyphs and stuff that you would normally expect to get in a nerd font, so they don't need to be patched. So anyway, so this is what that does. And then finally, there's this thing called fontconfig. This is the completely crazy. If you wanted to change, for example, in your browser, like this font, like in Gmail, you know what the font is to compose an email and stuff like that. What I've done is that I've told Linux that whenever it sees serif to use Iosevka term, sans serif, Iosevka term, sans monospace, all Iosevka term. So what this means is that applications that are using serif, sans serif, and so on for these fonts, they end up using Iosevka terms. So this is pretty extreme. Like it changes the look of almost everything. So you know, if you like that sort of thing, this is great. If you don't, then this is totally optional. You don't have to. And there's a great article on font aliasing and messing with font config that's in here. So yeah, and then finally I wanted to walk through all the Chrome extensions, GNOME extensions that I'm using. So Tactile is tiling window manager. You can activate it by using Windows T. And so, like, for example, if I wanted to make it half height, I would say QR. So then if I wanted to make it full, I would do QF. So that's how that works. So now with using just perfection, my default is just it maximizes whatever window that gets launched, and so then I can tile it down to size. And then if I want to switch back and forth, I use Alt-Tab, so good old Alt-Tab, or I can use I think Alt-Escape. That still looks like Alt-Tab. Oh, Alt-Escape. There we go. This thing. So there's, you know, all different ways of getting around. So there's something called weather or not, which is this thing. It requires the GNOME weather app to be installed. So it just shows you the weather in this little top panel. I wish I could remember what the name of this thing is. And then this one is nice. Vitals is awesome. I can keep track of whether my computer's overheating or not. That's usually what I use this for. Where's the fan speed? You can even show like the fan speed, stuff like that. Say AMD GPU fan, so whatever. And then this is a different tiling window manager called Tiling Shell, or not window manager, GNOME extension for tiling. And this one is much more graphical. It's really nice too. It's try it, see if you like it. It's really nice. Like it's kind of like more mouse driven rather than keyboard driven. So it's got some cool features. Then emoji copy, which is just this thing, because you gotta have emojis. And then clipboard history. This thing is, I can't live without it. Invaluable. Burn my windows, which is totally unnecessary. So this way, when you close a window, it does an animation. So, like for example, if we do, see, I don't know if you saw that there was some animation that happened, and when I close it, there's another animation. Then just perfection. This is for customizing whatever, like positioning of the clock and all these different things so that they fit in this top row. And with that concludes what I had to share. Yeah, and let me know if you have any questions about the setup. I have a whole bunch of other scripts which I haven't shared because I figured these were, I just put these out there and see what happens if anybody even cares. There's a Discord server that we have, so if you want to post comments or anything or ask questions, or if you have any suggestions, you know, you can use that. So like, for example, if you wanted, I'll be happy to share all my G settings, basically this one, dconf settings for how I have this environment set up. I'll be happy to share that with anybody that would like it. And then I have scripts for changing like the wallpapers and stuff like that. If people want that, I can public it as well. I ended up just like, I used to use Variety and that stopped working, so I ended up making my own. And then what else? That's pretty much it, actually. Oh, by the way, Jetbrains Toolbox, all that stuff works really well. Looks really pretty. Oh, not launching. There we go. So there you go, Jetbrains Toolbox. All the RustRover, Fleet, everything works really nice. So that's, let's see, RustRover. Yeah, it works really well. There you go. So there's RustRover. It looks nice. So not everything. I mean, there's a lot of things that work. Some things don't work, but the ones that work look absolutely stunning. Like, look at how pretty this is. This is great. Just the level of polish compared to what things used to look like in Pop! OS 22 or even Ubuntu 22 is just night and day. Actually, I should probably do zoom. There we go. Yeah, so you can see actually. There we go. So yeah, very pretty. So if you, yeah, that's pretty much all I had to cover in this video. If you like the style of this video, give it a thumbs up. Again, this is a very informal video, not like the normal build with nozes with where we do deep dives into Rust and stuff. If you like this thing and you want to see more videos like this with like, you know, UI customizations and fun things with productivity, let me know. Be glad to do more of these. Please subscribe to the channel. And also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Developer Life newsletter. So whenever new content gets posted on developerlife.com, the YouTube channel, or any articles, you know, I send out newsletters. I'm also thinking about starting a podcast at some point. So once enough momentum is built in this channel, I can do that. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.